playbook, playbook. It's a private practice playbook, playbook.
Okay, welcome to the podcast. So let's just dive in today. And today I thought what we would talk about is, as a reminder, right, we're in the business of helping private practitioners do well. And I feel like it's been a whirlwind since I did one of these, so I got to get a little better at doing them more often for you. Hopefully you had a great summer. I feel like since the last time we've done our big event, which we're going to be sharing a few excerpts with you over the coming months. We had a big Practice Growth Summit in Nashville, which was really one of the better events I think we've ever done. And so I do want to share some of the highlights of that with you. So I'll be doing that, like I said, over the next couple of months. But today I wanted to talk particularly about this issue of practice growth and why is it that some doctors don't grow? And I thought we'd try to look at this from a different perspective. I've taught you, hey, what are the 5 things that you do to grow? But I wanted to approach this from a slightly different angle. And, I was thinking a lot about this. I get clients come along and I'll say, hey, look, tell me your story. How'd you get to me or whatever? And I'm always fascinated in that journey. And I had kept noticing something, that they were describing these long periods of time, meaning that maybe a friend who's a client of theirs, a client of mine, tried to refer them. And then they don't do anything with it. And so I wanted to take you back a little bit and talk about some of the particular challenges and see if any of these apply to you. And so I want to start with one that I think is a big variable in a lot of doctors. And it is, we do a lot of testing, so we see this, but it is this tendency to perfection. And, if you think about it, if you're going to run a practice, and a lot of doctors, they're perfectionists. And a lot of people even report that they became a doctor because someone in their family put pressure on them and said, hey, you need to be a doctor or a lawyer or something, and that's your destiny. And there was an expectation of that. And then they start getting into their craft and they study, how to do a procedure and how to do that procedure correctly and how to make sure that it's right, and when you start thinking about that, then the next thing it really does become like perfection, right? It's like, and if you think about in life, well, number one, let's just talk about the perfectionist, because there is actually a lot of data that suggests that perfectionists suffer a plethora of psychological ailments that are derived out of the pursuit of perfection. And so one of the major reasons why some doctors do not have the ability to grow their practice is driven out of this, in that they would rather pursue perfection than they would growth. Now, you may say, and think about that. That's kind of a big deal, right? So that their extra money, their extra time, what they do is they go to course after course after course, which of course, if you really understand perfection, and I'll never forget, a wise mentor of mine said, you got to know when good enough is good enough. And, you obviously have to know how to make things better. And I don't want you to misinterpret this. These are not mutually exclusive. So, you can do something good enough and it cannot be perfect. And so I want you to think about that. Are you overly obsessing about the perfect procedure or perfect work when that's not what the patient is obsessing about? The patient wants good enough work. And let me give you an example. If me even saying this bothers you, you have this condition. Because you would say that I'm suggesting you should do subpar work, which is absolutely not what I'm suggesting. So if this is just even striking you as not appropriate, you probably actually have this problem. And unfortunately, what happens is when you start putting this pursuit in other areas. So for instance, if you want to have the perfect kid, good luck with that. If you want to have the perfect relationship, good luck with that. If you want to have the perfect diet, like we could just go through the whole list. It's a very unhealthy way of looking at things. The second thing we see, but that number one becomes an obsession you can't see anything else. And the second one we see, which is so interesting to me, is that growing the business is out of the comfort zone of the doctor. And so a lot of times what I have to do is I have to break down the barriers. Like when we get a coaching client, they have these preconceived notions that somehow growing the business is sacrificing your morals or something, or your code as a doctor, like your oath. And I see this a lot. And so so if when we have to do something out of our comfort zone, well, you say, well, what do most people do? Well, it's very clear. They avoid it. So, but if you know anything about how we progress as humans, you also know that getting out of your comfort zone is where you find out your perception was wrong. Meaning, every great advancement in life is about getting out of your comfort zone and learning that your comfort zone is bigger than you think. So imagine the trap that this creates, and the trap in general for most doctors is literally the trap of being in their own office too much. So for instance, if all of your time is spent in your office, that's your comfort zone. When, I was thinking about last week, I had, 90 doctors in a room, and they're out of their office, and we do a 2-day, 48 hours together. And I think, a couple of them just made the comment to me. They're like, oh, I needed this so much. And now that's their comfort zone. It didn't start out as their comfort zone, but now they have a new comfort zone, which is to get away from the place they go every day, close down, think about what they need to do differently, because now that's comfortable for them, right? So if you are living in your comfort zone, and comfort zones tend to shrink unless you are forcing them to be bigger. And remember, this could be a lot of things. It could be going to a new gym. It could be going to dinner with people you don't know. It could be having a conversation. It could be picking up a book on a subject that you don't know anything about and reading. It could be walking in and doing a yoga class. there's a whole lot of things that are out of our comfort zone. So I want to encourage you, it's like the great one of somebody saying they don't have time to do the thing that they need to do. It has nothing to do with the time, it has to do with their comfort zone. So I want you to think about, are you spending every day in your comfort zone? And I mean, I'm sure one of you will say, oh no, I'm really risk taker, but then if I looked at your schedule, I'd be like, well, yeah, like show me one thing, right? So last week, like here's a good way of looking at it. I was telling this story the other day. Someone invited me to a charity event, and it was like a Sunday night or something. And so do I want to go to the charity event on the Sunday night? Well, the obvious answer is no. But you accept the invitation, and then when you go, you end up meeting some nice people. You learn about a charity that's doing great work. Maybe you get to involve, maybe you actually get to take some money and give it to them and have an impact without being there. See, you get rewarded, right? But you got to go. And so the challenge for all of us, it's no different than, people struggling to find new team members, but yet they don't talk to people about needing new team members. Just doesn't make any sense. So the second reason is the comfort zone is too small, and they're not constantly making it bigger and remembering the truth that if you go do something, it's rarely as bad as you think, and it makes your comfort zone bigger. The third one, and man, I don't even know how to begin to describe this. It's like this righteousness. It's like, I've met, Christians like this. They're like very righteous, right? I mean, very judgy, right? Just like there are everyone. I don't mean it's not just Christians. I mean, you got very judgy people and everything, but it gives it such a bad name when they do this, right? And so here's what it is. So I'm so righteous about what I do. So I'm a dentist, and so my work, it's so I'm like an artist, like artists are like this, right? Artists are, they're usually terrible business people. Like if you say to an artist, how much is the painting? Like they want to tell you about the painting. And sometimes I'm just like, I don't care. I just like the painting. I want to know how much it is. I'm going to take it home. And they want to like have a long description about the painting, right? Which is fine. But I also want the price because I can't buy it unless I get the price. And so there's this battle between what I do for a living and then making a living. And so some doctors have this sort of idea that, that the money part can't be part of it, and that so they make it not part of it. But here's the truth. Like I've studied this every single way. I've studied what's in the Bible about this stuff. I've studied it. And when you really study everything, you'd have to realize that money is involved in almost everything in life. And that actually you can be really good at something and you can charge for it an appropriate fee. As a matter of fact, I believe that, giving things for free is kind of a problem. And I know for certain that people that get things for free tend to pay attention to it less than people who pay for it. This third doctor has this sort of conflict going in their head that they're confused about money. They're confused about money's place in the world. They're confused about money's place in their work. And somehow, some way, they have kind of an arrogance that they think they can ignore the truths about money. And what's so sad about that, if you actually studied money, money is a great revealer. Money reveals value. Money reveals whether or not you've done a good job. Money is actually the sort of the number one commodity for expressing value. Humans actually place a lot of, people will shockingly spend money on things because they perceive them to be value, and everyone's value system is different. So if you go to, where one person would, if we think about this, you even see this in offices where you have a team member's never been trained, and she wouldn't pay you to do anything, but the patient would pay you $20,000. I jokingly said I was at this charity event and the MC was the worst I've ever heard. And, I hope nobody hears this, but oh well, it's okay if they do. I don't care. And I jokingly said to my wife, I'd donate 20,000 right now if this guy would just stop. And I was being dead serious. And by the way, I did donate 20,000, and but he didn't stop. But it's all how you'd value it. I just thought he was doing, quite frankly, a miserable job of emceeing. But see, somebody would say, well, what do you mean you'd pay $20,000 if he would just stop? Well, I was literally like, if you just stop the pain. So see, what's weird about how we do not get to value what people think about money. This doctor thinks that somehow you're in control, right? See, the patient has a different value than you, and you got to learn their value. What they want is not what you want. I can tell you that for a fact. How they want it is not the way you want to do it. It's the way they want to do it. So this third doctor here just gets very confused about this. Like everything's a conflict, right? So they want to charge super low fees. They don't want to raise their prices. It's like the commoditization of your work, right? I'm just going to be average Joe. And then usually they end up not making a lot of money because why would you? Because you don't value what you do even as much as the patient does. Okay, number 4. This one's super easy, and I'll be brief on this one, but you got to get this. Fourth doctor never learns the numbers. And listen, I've made a living. You got to learn the numbers. And I'll just run through what you got to know. What's a new patient worth? You got to know what a new patient is worth. And as you can see, this third doctor and the fourth doctor, you can start to see, like if you have the problems I just described, you'd never bother to figure out what a patient was worth. But you got to know what a patient is worth. That means if a patient comes in and they come in all their life, how much are they worth? There's actually a dollar figure attached to it. And again, Shark Tank is like a very successful TV show. It's the same questions they ask. How much is a customer worth? Then they ask, how much do you pay to get the customer? You got to know, we call it acquisition cost. How much do you pay to get a customer? And a lot of doctors are like, I don't pay to get customers. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're saying that there's a monetary figure that you spend every month to market or promote or not. Then you divide it by how many new patients you have, and that's what the average acquisition cost is. And most people have a very, very low number, okay? So you got to know what a new patient is worth, that's an average, and you're going to have some worth more and some worth less. You have to know what you acquire them for, right? And you have to know these numbers. And then when we look at it, you've got to look at some things like, okay, conversion rate, like how many of the people come in, there's other statistics. But this fourth doctor pays no attention to the numbers. Usually if you said to them, how many new patients do you have last month? They'd say, I don't know. You say, well, what's a patient worth? I don't know. What do you acquire a patient for? I don't know. So again, if any and all of your answers are, I don't know, does it kind of make sense that you can't even work out the reasons to grow it? I mean, and it's a fascinating thing. It would be like if I said, hey, do you have enough money to pay all your expenses and pay all your taxes? And you have enough money to expedite your debt payments, right? A lot of people are like, I don't know. I mean, the best way I could look at this, like here, I'll give you an example of the worst financial decision that almost everybody in America makes. If you have a home mortgage and you have a 30-year mortgage, and I ask you the question, how much are you going to pay in interest on your house? Most people cannot answer the question. But if you pull out an amortization chart and take a 30-year mortgage, and it's a $500,000 loan, and you pay it over 30 years, I'm ballparking, but your interest is probably 2.25, 250. I mean, if you said that you bought a $500,000 house and you're going to spend $250 on interest, I mean, the reason why you don't know is because you don't know numbers. And so it's one bad decision after another. If you pay for your house over 30 years, that's unbelievably naive. I mean, it's almost like, and then imagine that a person would actually let their child do the same thing. That's horrible. Yes, you should get a 30-year mortgage and just pay the mortgage every month. That is the worst financial advice. But here, they don't know the numbers. So you got to know your numbers, okay? And as you can see, we start combining these things. I got a perfectionist with a teeny, teeny, teeny little comfort zone. I got a righteousness about money that punishes myself. And then I don't know any of my numbers because God forbid I would want to know the actual truth. And then here comes number 5. Welcome to the grand illusion, right? Is that my work is better than yours. My work is better than the people down the street. See, I don't need to have that big sign with the time and temperature. I don't need to run that TV ad. I don't need a big building. See, it's this, because somehow the quality in here is better, but those people have 10 times as many patients as I do. See, it's the great lie, right? It's like, if you were good, see, this is what I want to invite you to, that it is not mutually exclusive, meaning you can do incredible work. You can have a big practice. You could have multiple doctors. The bigger it is, sometimes the better it is. Now, this is not in all situations, but it's in the model I've created, and it's in the model that we do. But when you come across the small-minded doctor, and when I say small-minded, here's what I mean. I remember this was about why some doctors are challenged to grow. These are the characteristics that they possess. These are the false beliefs that have been turned into reality for them. And once they get on the other side, because what you got to remember is I take a lot of people and get them off of that dark side into the light side, which is like to understand the truth. And the truth is a little bit liberating, if you would, but that the quality of your work is so good, and that's why you have 7 new patients a month, because of quality. I mean, think about that. That's crazy, but it's what happens. So the doctor with 7 new patients a month, when they really need 27 or 45 to do all the things in life they want to do. See, I learned this, that the quantity of new patients is the quantity of people you impact in any given period of time. So I had a client the other day send me something. He had like 1,200 new patients 1 month, I think was his number. And I don't think he saw one of them. And then imagine what that would do to like this person if I said, now I don't expect you to go from your 7 to 1200 because that's a multi-year journey. But the judgmentalness that suggests that your 7 are getting such a better experience than the 100 or 150 in the larger practice, that's a trap. It's not even true. That's the crazy thing. And like if you went into a practice that we've helped build and it's a vivacious practice and it's got a nice building and a nice sign and there's people coming in and out all day and there's multiple doctors and a team there. I mean, if you really, really, really think the quality of your practice that much better, I mean, wow. Here's probably what you've never gone in to see what's happening. I mean, that's because that would be out of your comfort zone. You go in there and see what's happening. So here's the good news for you, right? Good news is that on the flip side of this entire thing, once you learn the truth, right, that value is created by the patient's perception, not yours. Quality is by the patient's perception, not yours. They actually say that the patient puts a much higher priority on totally different things, which most doctors don't even know. They put a lot of weight on convenience. They put a lot of weight on time. And it's crazy that quality office is slow as molasses, which is the exact opposite of what they want. So listen, there's 5 for you today. I hope one of those strikes a chord with you. And if you have all 5, I'm super, super sorry. But what I want you to do is I want you to translate this back out and understand if you're stuck, then you need to get some help, right? You need to get professional help, and we're glad to help you. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.
Thanks so much for checking out this episode of the Private Practice Playbook. For clips of this episode, go ahead and check out the YouTube channel. If you enjoyed what you heard today, make sure to subscribe to the podcast at podcastfordoctors.com to unlock subscriber-only bonus episodes. Find our links below in the description.